guess we're now live. I'm
Yeah.
Patrick Miller. I'm joined here today by Wayne Pois.
Hi.
We are introducing the Ball and Breakfast podcast. It'll be a podcast on sports, pop culture, life, kind of how they're all intertwined, but in general, just two guys who grew up in Chicago and the Chicagoland area, talking sports, reconnecting over a good absence of time. We put together this podcast for the reasons that we love sports. We are into podcasting in general. We are pretty on top of our social media game. Wayne more than me, given his background in his career. But just overall, I think this is a great outlet to get sports, out of our minds every once in a while, and into something that can be delivered to you. So thanks for joining us, and I'll kick it over to Wayne to introduce himself.
Hi. Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Pat. So I love sports too. My name's Wayne. I'm from Chicago. I'm actually in Chicago. I have the Chicago background. This is a 1,000-piece puzzle, lots of labor. Did a lot of work on that during the pandemic. Yeah. So, one nice thing came out of it for sure. I kind of would do some work in digital marketing tech. So that's why I know a little thing or two about social. I was like, hey, I want to start a podcast since all the cool kids are doing that. Hey, I think I'm a cool kid. So I kind of just went that route. But I actually majored in sports management at DePaul, and I've always been, winning fantasy football leagues. So I thought, hey, I might as well talk a little bit of some of the knowledge and all that I've garnered over the years. And Pat's, where did we meet? We met at DePaul, right? You're that whole business fraternity group and everything. I don't know if we're allowed to say them or whatever, but so a lot of good times there. Thought this guy was a pretty decent human being and all that. And, has a beautiful smile. So thought, why not? I remember just reaching out to him, or he reached out to me when I posted on Instagram saying, hey, I want to start a podcast. And then he was like, oh, hey, I want to do the same thing too. So then we just, a couple weeks later, now we're here. So, yeah. And then all this fun stuff happening, free agency, apparently it's happening in NFL. Is there anything that we want to talk about with regards to all that?
Yeah, I think, you nailed it just as far as what's been trending. I mean, I think all sports right now are at their climax in terms of, us nerds around sports, just seeing things in the news or in ESPN or any of the outlets and just kind of seeing things that are trending. But NFL definitely has been starting to percolate over the last, week or so. We've got some major QB movement going on right now. And I think we'll first, kick it off with what happened with Russell Wilson, Super Bowl champion and a Super Bowl runner up, but a bona fide superstar in his own right for the Seattle Seahawks, got traded along with a 4th-round pick to the Denver Broncos. And in return, Seattle got 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick, quarterback Drew Lock, defensive tackle Shelby Harris, and tight end Noah Fant. So, Wayne, when you first saw this hit the news or hit the Twitter feed or what have you, what was your first reaction?
I thought it was nuts. I thought it was crazy. I mean, I think there was always those conversations last year, right, of him being traded and all that. I think we heard rumors of him going to Florida maybe for Tua, or there were some rumors, maybe Chicago with Justin Fields and all that. I think there's been some things that have transpired previously. I think I heard and the rumor on the good old rumor mill, and it's always fun to figure out what's actually true in the NFL offseason. It just always seems like, is this an actual story or is this all speculation, right? But I think the rumor mill was that the Seahawks GM was kind of just toying around. Oh, what would it be like if we did trade Russell Wilson? And then when Russell Wilson got wind of all that, he was like, what the hell? Won you a Super Bowl and have been a noble citizen in Seattle. I have a lot of friends in Seattle, lived there for a couple of years and all that. And all of them were like, oh, no, like that's like their franchise quarterback. Like that, he's our Tom Brady, right? Like he's our guy, and they love him over in Seattle. So, yeah, initial reaction, it's unfortunate. I think Seattle, I think it was a case of over over general managering, right? Um, kind of like how Jerry Krause was like always, oh, I want to see if what I can get if I trade Scottie Pippen or whatever, or Horace Grant, or we did trade Horace Grant, right? But like figuring out all these trades and all that, just to which can be good and beneficial, but at the same time, it's like Russell Wilson's the man and all that. And but then ever since then, now it seems like they're going into the direction of rebuild. So yeah, it's the life of the NFL, and there's no loyalty really, whatever. So, but I don't know. It's hard. It's hard, I guess. If Russell Wilson isn't happy there, then if the quarterbacks really get to dictate, I think where a lot of teams go these days. So, whether it's Stafford or whether it's Russell Wilson, if they're not happy, then they're just going to be trash for your team and all that. So, yeah, you can always rebuild and figure out all that, and I think that's just where Seattle's going.
Yeah, I'd agree with a couple of things you said. I mean, first, as far as the rumors went, the first thing that I caught wind of was probably a year or two ago, but it was actually Sierra, his wife, who was talking about, moving to New York or, into a bigger market. Maybe it's LA. Stafford went to the Rams, and, the Giants have been the Giants and the Jets have been the Jets, but I kind of got this feeling that maybe he'd be going out to New York at some point. But it definitely felt like last year when we just looked at the team, very stale. I mean, he was banged up with his hand, but in general, it just kind of felt like Seattle had kind of hit their high point right after that second Super Bowl loss. And, ever since then, when the Legion of Boom just kind of dissipated, it was basically up to Russell Wilson and, a couple of Seattle running backs that, could never really bust in fantasy. And the same, you had Metcalf and Lockett, but you're always looking at it and saying, why isn't this offense clicking into another gear? And, a lot of what you were saying about the GM, I actually heard, on the Pete Carroll side of things, just how he likes to construct the football team and what he thinks would take a team from nothing to something. And, the backbone of all of his, teams and what he kind of sees as the focus is you have a very strong defense and you have a quarterback with talent, but is on a controllable contract. And, Russell made a good amount of money in his first 3 years of that deal. I think what I saw was he has 2 years left remaining, somewhere in the ballpark of $50 million over those 2 years. But, to kind of go over to the Broncos, at this point, kind of feels right, even though, like you're saying, leaving Seattle, he's just left a legacy there. And he's still a great quarterback. He's by no means at the end of his time there, but there was just something that always made them feel like they're just going to be 500 or kind of worse in some way. And kind of feel like foundationally they had to press some sort of buttons, and they pushed the biggest button they had. So,
yeah. Well, yeah, I think you hit on the point with regards to, his salary and all that. Is it 50 million he's making a year or something like that?
I think it's over 2, because I think the bonuses and
I see
everything he had put, I think it was a 4-year 140 deal, but I know there were a lot of bonuses baked into that, and maybe those bonuses have been paid. I think it was 65 million or something, and guaranteed money or something of the sort. But I think I looked and saw that it was around 50 million left on the total price tag.
Got it. But yeah, I think, these days, and we saw it in New England. I think that was a warning sign too of like, oh yeah, if you're a quarterback and you're really, really expensive, we're just gonna give you the cold shoulder or whatever. It's like, oh, you no matter what you've done for us, we're willing to get rid of you because we don't want like a third of our salary cap going towards you, basically. So, that's the life in the NFL. I think there's this, I think this push, I think, to just get rookie quarterbacks, especially, there's a lot of talented rookie quarterbacks coming out and this year, next year and all that. But it comes to a point of like, okay, build an awesome team with all these first round picks that you get and all, and being able to draft quality talent and surround them with nice free agents, on a rookie quarterback deal. But then, you're getting rid of really talented quarterbacks. So yeah, push is going to come, push is going to come to shove, I think, with regards to some of that. So, but yeah, that seems like it's going to be the trend, and we'll see how this all folds out. It's funny if you ask me, like, if Russell Wilson was going to be traded or Aaron Rodgers, I think like a week ago, right? I feel like everybody would have said, "Oh yeah, Aaron Rodgers is totally gone," but just signed a big deal with them. So, they kind of went the other way. It's funny how that all transpired.
Yeah. And I guess, touching on the deal itself, if we just look at Wilson and look at the haul that Seattle got, what grades would you give out to either team, or kind of looking at both teams this year and moving forward? Talk about Seattle and then talk about Denver and what you think they're going to do next year and beyond.
Yeah. Well, I think the Seahawks, I think they're definitely on a rebuild. So, they got rid of Bobby Wagner, who's like the best middle linebacker in the game and all that too. And this just goes to show you, it's like, oh yeah, they can trade away a quarterback, but nobody wants a 31-year-old middle linebacker, even though he's the best in the game, right? They just cut him and all. So, but they got a couple first rounders, a couple picks, really solid tight end. It's hard to beat that, So I think the Seahawks, even though they don't have a quarterback, Drew Lock is not going to cut it whatsoever. Who knows? Maybe like Metcalf is going to be like, hey, I want to get out of here too, So this definitely could be a snowball effect for some other players that are coming out there. And hey, the Bears, call him up, see what happens and all that. He's only 24. But yeah, it's like I don't think they're done, but it sounds like they're going to load up on draft picks and make some solid draft moves. So yeah, they're going to be younger. It's always hard to predict, but I think they've. And this is debatable, I guess, with like how good have they been drafting? DK Metcalf is great and all that, but then now he doesn't have Russell Wilson, so exactly how much is he going to carry you forth? So I think they maybe might consider drafting a quarterback this year and seeing what happens, and then again going to this whole get rid of that really expensive quarterback and mold a rookie quarterback. Like I said, young quarterbacks these days are just ultra talented more so now. So yeah, I think Seahawks have some question marks there, but Russell Wilson going into Denver, like the AFC West now, they're pretty packed. Holy cow. I would not want to be a defensive player in the AFC West. Patrick Mahomes, and Justin Herbert. It's like Derek Carr is your worst quarterback, but hasn't he made a couple Pro Bowls? Like he was like an MVP at certain points of last year. So it just goes to show it's a quarterback driven league. But yeah, I think their offense is really talented. They got some weapons there with Judy, KJ Hamler, and Cortland Sutton. I've always drafted Cortland Sutton actually in all my fantasy drafts. So
same here last year.
Yeah. He's a nice receiver. I think he just gets targeted a lot and all that, it seems like. So but yeah, I think they'll be good, and it'll be interesting to see if Von Miller. He's expressed interest in coming back. So yeah, maybe their defense will be better, and they also got the second and third that they got from LA for him. So I know. So Denver's doing really well. They might pull off another Peyton Manning type of thing over there.
Yeah, I think Josh McDaniels might renege on his Las Vegas Raiders coaching assignment. Right back to New England to be with Bill Belichick again. I wouldn't want to be him. Wouldn't want to be the Raiders. Just kind of seeing the Chiefs, Broncos, and Chargers 2 times a year. That's going to be brutal. And AFC wide as of right now is pretty quarterback heavy. So NFC's thinning out, and just in the process, I think that's going to be a really brutal division. I can't sit here and say that, at least from the Broncos side of things, you get Russell Wilson to go along with that offense. And like you're saying, if you had Von Miller, or maybe perhaps you had Bobby Wagner on a 1 year or something kind of deal just to come back Russ and stick it to Seattle. I mean, it's possible, but there is some part of me that also looks at the Chiefs as just being, the cream of the crop in that division, and also looking at the Chargers and saying, you got a guy who's maybe going to push Patrick Mahomes for best quarterback, in the AFC, along with Burrow and others. I'm sure I'm missing a good one here or there, but that's just going to be a very stacked division. And on Seattle's side, I think you come away with, just a suite of picks. Whether or not they draft correctly. I mean, they've gotten their bus along the way there with, Bruce Irvin and other guys, I think, that didn't really, pop in the first round or what have you. But, hopefully Pete Carroll can build it up from something, and we'll see how many more years he has left with Seattle. But, Drew Lock will definitely not be the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks moving forward. And I think this is a good place to kind of segue, because one quarterback's name that I've at least seen linked to Seattle, but also other teams, is Deshaun Watson.
That's right. He's a free man right now as of a couple hours ago or something.
So it was found that he was not guilty of sexual harassment and assault allegations. I actually saw another alert pop up that said that, watch the NFL just go crazy with, trade rumors and activity around Deshaun Watson. But do you see a possibility of Seattle looking around and saying, hey, we've got some pretty, high picks of our own. We've got Denver's, we've got some young talent here. We got a DK Metcalf that may, go along with some of those first round picks. I don't know, but what would you say if you were Seattle and Deshaun Watson gave you the green light to, bring him to Seattle? Or, if you're another GM around the league, who do you think is going to pull that trigger?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. Well, I don't know if Seattle would. I don't know. I don't think Seattle would. Yeah. I mean, they already got rid of Wagner and all that, and I feel like they're going the other way. So I don't know if it was a situation of we want to, we don't think Russell Wilson's the fit, right? I feel like that's where you would give more draft capital to basically get someone like a Deshaun Watson, if that were the case. I think they just want to rebuild. Blow it up, get rid of Russell Wilson's contract, get some draft picks. Because you are going to have to eat up Deshaun Watson's contract, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's still under contract, so I think he's going to be making $20 million or something like that. So yeah, if you're going to get Watson, then you're kind of more so on the win now, or you plan on winning in the near future more so, rather than rebuilding. It seems like the Seahawks might be going that route. But if in terms of potential suitors, I mean, what team that's been sucking of late wants a quarterback, and then also has the wherewithal to be like, hey, he went through his due diligence and all that with the court system and all. So, probably more so of a city that's a little bit more forgiving with regards to any type of thing like that, or any type of stigma. Hopefully. So, I really don't know. It would be interesting to see if San Francisco all of a sudden, if they can do something there, right? If they're able to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he's still under contract, but maybe get rid of him, and if they're sold on Trey Lance or not, I don't know, but that would be interesting in the Bay Area. We'll see if if the culture would accept Deshaun Watson more so. But I would love to see him actually maybe on the Lions. I don't know. That would be my that would be interesting, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, who do you think? Who do you think he's going to join?
Last year, at least I'm talking about Carolina, Miami. I thought I saw that Miami said they were out. Overall, but one place I could see is Minnesota. Not that I'd want to, but in a lot of ways, with getting rid of Zimmer, bringing in, I believe it's O'Connell from the Rams, bringing in that new offensive mindset. Not that Kirk Cousins can't do the job. I actually think that he's pretty dogged by, fans and, media alike.
Right.
There's something about Cousins that I think is pretty solid. But in the same sense, do you just want to put rocket fuel behind your offense if you've got Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, and you can just throw in,
True.
like Deshaun Watson? That'd be super interesting. I think that's where I'd want to see it go, just from a NFL fan perspective.
Sure.
Even though I understand, but I will say that as of right now, if I had to pick one dark horse, it would be Minnesota. But don't sleep on Carolina getting back in the mix there.
No, I think that's a good point. Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned, like a team like Minnesota, who they have a lot of good assets around and to surround the quarterback. So I feel it seems like they're much more closer to that win now aspect, more so that I think I was talking about. So I could definitely see Watson probably just going in there within Minnesota. I don't know the whole situation with Cousins and if they can, how can they get rid of him? Because I know he has a big contract, right? So, but if they're able to get rid of him and then put into Watson and in the contract perspective, then sure, I think that makes sense. Like him going towards that wide receiver core. I mean, I think that's awesome. So, and gets to play in the dome a little bit. So yeah, I could probably see that. I'm trying to think if there's any other teams out there, but I think that would probably be the best fit, if I'm not mistaken, though. Who do you think will be joining the Giants? Do you think that they're going to move on from Mr. Daniel Jones at all, or who?
They absolutely should. I am not a Daniel Jones fan. I never was. He reminds me a lot of a quarterback that we had a couple seasons ago. We traded a lot of first-round picks and draft capital to bring this guy aboard in Chicago, and I don't hate him. I don't think he's a terrible quarterback, but I will say the one quarterback I could see pushing Daniel Jones is Mitchell Trubisky. Rejoining Brian Daboll from Buffalo in his first year in New York as the head coach. I'm getting all sorts of praise on Mitchell Trubisky and his upside and his talent and this and that. And, again, I'm not trying to dog on him, but I just kind of see him for what he is. I read a Bleacher Report article a couple of years ago about how the Bears went about their draft process when it was Trubisky, Mahomes, Watson, and the news kind of shed light on the fact that they didn't even bring Watson in for an interview, which was just awful. Whether or not Patrick Mahomes, if we all knew that he was going to be who he is another story, and I'm not upset about that. But to kind of bring in a guy in Trubisky and kind of trade up to get him when a lot of, GM evaluators around the league didn't even think he would be, I think it was something in the first 2 or 3 rounds, just kind of sheds light on what I think he is as a talent. I think he can be a serviceable backup. I think he might at best be a good game manager, somebody who can change the tempo a little bit, but I just don't see him as an NFL quarterback, but that's ultimately who I could see pushing Daniel Jones. And I honestly think they're very comparable. I don't know who I'd pick, so I'd flip a coin on that one. But what do you think?
Yeah, I think it just makes too much sense for Trubisky to be there. And I think you hit on all the points for all that. So yeah, I really don't know if there's any other quarterback that would totally make sense. I would just imagine that he would probably just, if he were not to go the whole Trubisky route, that he would, that they would just draft another quarterback. There's that being said, they have a lot of holes. I think the Giants do. So it's like, okay, we can just, it's a deep draft. So it's hard to say if like they're going to, spend if they would spend a draft capital on a quarterback. But I would think that Trubisky just makes too much damn sense. So, yeah, and he to his credit, he seemed like a pretty decent guy. And I wanted Deshaun Watson during the draft, but then I was actually watching a lot of Trubisky video, and I thought, okay, he's got a nice release. I could see why. I followed him like when he was like on the draft boards, like in the maybe second round or something like that. I was like, oh, that'd be perfect and all that. So if he went in the second round to the Bears, that would have been great. But he didn't. We gave a lot for him and all that. So just for that one slot. So yeah, but it is what it is. I think he's better off probably just going to New York now. And yeah, maybe he can resurrect his career, do a whole Ryan Tannehill thing. So, and yeah, always, handled himself pretty well. Always seemed like a pretty decent person, and always said the right thing, I think. So, if he can make it off in New York, I mean, that would be awesome for him. So, yeah, I think that could work for him.
Yeah, I think the Tannehill comp is a good one. Somebody who's, tall, trim, can get on their feet and scramble a little bit, can, make plays with the arm, legs, whatever it is. I feel like, he's the kind of guy who maybe could mold himself into somebody who, could be a valuable one or two going forward as a quarterback for a team. But I guess on another front, we had another big trade as far as Carson Wentz going to, I guess now my hometown, Washington Commanders, with a 2022 second round pick. And in return, the Colts got a 22 second, a 22 third, and for the 2023 season, they'll get either a third round pick or a second round pick, depending on how much Carson Wentz plays. Break that one down for me. What do you think for the Commanders? And then what do you think about the Colts and their future QB situation?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So this is definitely where, hey, maybe now that I'm thinking more about this, maybe there's just more options now for Watson. Again, like a player that can just plug in for a team that's kind of just a quarterback away. So, the Colts were definitely kind of fit that mold. So maybe that is an option over there. Washington was, I like what Ron Rivera's always done. He always seems like he elevates the teams. Who was the quarterback last year that was like tearing it up?
Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
XFL great.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely could be more so on there. They can definitely develop a little bit more talent, but, I think adding Carson Wentz, what was the stats again? I think somebody I saw on Twitter, comparing his stats to every other quarterback. It was actually really good. But then, he definitely did a big choke job, I think, at the last game of the season to get in the playoffs against Jacksonville. So that was just hard to eat. And then, it's always been Wentz has always been oh, he's got all the talent. Is he even trying to maybe he's I don't know, a quasi Jay Cutler. He's got all the talent of the world, but for whatever reason, hasn't been able to just take it to that next level. So, I don't know. I don't understand the whole draft trading away, even second or third rounders or whatever to get a quarterback like Wentz, when, maybe you can just mold it. But, it's probably more so, that the Washington Commanders actually want to win now more so. And maybe they just didn't want to bank on this whole Deshaun Watson, what's going to happen with him. And maybe they didn't feel good about Trubisky. Again, Wentz has great stats, kind of like the Kirk Cousins, if you will, just, a little bit younger and a little bit more redheaded. So, but yeah, I don't see, he's a top average for starting NFL type of quarterback, the baseline. So, but he's got really good stats. So I don't see anything necessarily wrong with Wentz. Just, he's never been able to put it all together, it seems like, and take a team to the playoff and then win it in there and all. The one time his team went to the playoffs, Nick Foles had to step in and do all that. So, yeah.
I mean, your comp to Jay Cutler, I haven't heard that one yet, but that's actually a good one as far as, just a frustratingly good, talented quarterback who just, has a mental midget or just cannot get, maybe outside of his head or just thinks they're better than they really, truly are. And maybe that just kind of overwhelms them in the moment. But I was kind of also thinking of Shane Falco from the I don't know why, just, Carson Wentz just, blows it in the playoffs and just moves onto a boat and, you don't see him for a few years. He's, having a couple of beers on the boat, but, then he gets called into Washington. Now he's the quarterback of the, not the Sentinels, but the Commanders. And, you're right about the stats. I actually took a look. Wentz last year was 9th in QBR. He was 13th in passer rating. He was 10th in touchdown passes for the season. He only had 7 interceptions, and he had a 27-7 TD to interception ratio there.
Yeah.
The guy ticks all the boxes when you're just actually looking at a box score. But, The one thing I'll say, and, he's getting obviously dumped on. We don't see what goes on behind the cameras with his attitude or, things like that. But, the Jaguars also shut down Josh Allen last year. And, Josh Allen went to Jacksonville and, they put up 6 points as a team, a couple field goals. So, now Josh Allen and Carson Wentz, I think, are in two different categories. But what I see, and, this is obviously his last chance, but you bring him into Washington, he's pretty familiar with that division. He gets to throw balls to Terry McLaurin. He's got Curtis Samuel also on the outside. And he can help, kind of pound the rock with Antonio Gibson. Everybody talked the world about that defense going into last year, and I know they had, a little bit of a setback. They cut Landon Collins, I think it was today or yesterday, but, that team can just regroup a little bit, like you were saying with Rivera. I always liked him in Carolina, with those Panthers teams that were perennial playoff contenders. I just think he brings the right attitude and tone to the team, and, going with the Deshaun Watson route would have been kind of rough given the PR nightmare they went through in the offseason anyways, up in their executive office. But I actually like the Carson Wentz move, and I think that the actual transaction didn't cost the Commanders anything, really. I mean, they're getting a second, they're giving a second, and they're, giving maybe a third-round pick and maybe another third or second. But you get a guy who's 29 years old, a couple more years to prove himself. If he pops or even just, plays Kirk Cousins football or better, you might be looking at a playoff team. And that's kind of the thing that'll set the Commanders' new history in the right direction. And, maybe we're looking back in 5 years and saying, hey, Carson Wentz is a guy who can take a team to a playoff year in, year out. And, he's still putting up solid stats. So, we'll see.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think that's definitely fair. But yeah, his stats it always seems like he has solid stats and all that, but there's always that has that aura or something that just you can't get over the feel or whatever. So but I was actually just looking at some of the Tampa Bay rumors and all that. So yeah, with Brady retiring now, I know they drafted somebody I thought maybe the Bears would consider drafting last year, in Kyle Trask, right? I think he in the second round. Be interesting if they go with him, and because they have a pretty talented team over there. What do you think about the Buccaneers and how they go in terms of filling in the roles for the GOAT?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, you're not filling Tom Brady's shoes. Nobody is. I saw that they tagged Godwin, and he'll be coming off an ACL surgery. I don't know when he's available. Last year was just a tough ending of the year with, AB throwing, his fit and quitting on the team. You look at Gronkowski, he's a free agent. I'm sure he's either going to retire or play with somebody who's ready to go. Outside of that, Mike Evans may be the only other holdover. I mean, I think Fournette's a free agent. So for me, Tampa Bay, if I were GM of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I might bite the bullet and, start trading off assets. I mean, I might move a Mike Evans and see what I can get for him. I mean, I'm not going to give him away for nothing, but I'm kind of just looking at what their window was when Tom entered into the scene, and they banked on that. And, it would take an absolute miracle, to get the right quarterback into position for that team to kind of be ready to contend again. I mean, I don't know what it would take to get Watson for them as far as the draft, capital that they currently hold or don't hold. But then I also really think about it and say to myself, is Deshaun Watson, after missing a full year and also coming off a losing season the year before last, is that the kind of guy who can just jump right into the driver's seat and take that team all the way? I don't know. And my money would be on no. So for me, I think it's one of those years that you maybe just bring in, not a Jameis Winston, because you've had him before, what he is. And I don't think Arians ever wants to see the guy again for the rest of his coaching career. But, maybe that's one of those years you just get a bridge guy, or, you go with the young guy, like you're saying with Trask, and just, see what you got. And, if you end up being the worst team in the NFC South, so be it. You hit the draft boards and hopefully you can, hit on one of these high-end quarterbacks for next year with Stroud, or I'm missing the name of the Alabama quarterback, Bryce Young. But,
Yeah.
Maybe that's where you start. But what do you think about it? Did you have anything in mind as far as who might be able to step in and compete?
Yeah, well, it's a couple of things I think to factor in, because Bruce Arians is I think he's 70 years old. I think he's like kind of his window is kind of going down too. So if they were to go a route, it would definitely, like, I don't think that Arians, and maybe I'm wrong about this, because we saw Bill Belichick bring in a young quarterback after the GOAT. So. But I was always thinking like, oh yeah, maybe Deshaun Watson would fit in there. I think he makes about 20 some odd million, and I think that's what Tom Brady's cap hit, what it is for 2022 and all. So, I don't know. It would be interesting, but if they really wanted to bring more support for Brady and thought that he was going to play more, then they wouldn't have drafted Trask at the second round, because I don't think they had too much draft capital the previous couple of years. I think they were all kind of trading it all a little bit just to get that championship, which they did. So I don't necessarily know which way that they go. I definitely think they're kind of in the middle. So but yeah, if Arians says like, hey, maybe I do want to coach for a young quarterback that we can bring up a little bit more. And then get on that rookie contract, maybe resign some veterans and kind of go that route, then hey, yeah, then they can keep the party going. But I don't know how much. It just really depends on how much more Arians wants to be around, because he's a great coach. I wanted him to join the Bears when he was around. I think he was like, oh yeah, I actually wanted to go to the Bears, but they never called me or something like that. Again, all these quarterbacks or coaches that we could have gotten, but somebody just didn't want to pick up the phone. So, it's like he won Coach of the Year as an interim head coach. When I heard that, I was like, wait, what? Sign him, get him going and all that. So, I know he was a little bit older. That might have been the reason why, but he's a good coach. He's a good coach. And don't they have Leftwich too, I think, still around? So, I know he was up for some offensive coordinator type of positions and all that, or head coaching positions. I was kind of interested with the Bears too when we were looking. So, whoever they choose to be in there, I think could be in a good situation overall. So, but who knows if they are going to cut a bunch of players in the next couple of days.
Yeah. No, I think one other thing to consider with the South is just the state of those other teams. I mean, Carolina, Atlanta, New Orleans. I mean, we've got three
There's
teams.
Opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. So you might be right in terms of, hey, you got Arians in place. You've got, a bunch of guys who just won a Super Bowl and kind of know what it takes to win. You just bring in a guy who can be a bridge, or who knows, maybe you hit on, a free agent or, Trask or someone else. But no, maybe there's more football left to play with the Bucs and in that division. Outside, I guess, other quarterback situations, we didn't touch on the Colts and we didn't touch on the Steelers. So if you had to just think for those franchises, about what their next steps may be, or what you would do if you were GM of either team, what do you kind of see for both of those franchises?
Yeah. Well, Colts, maybe a little bit of Watson, or I think I saw Terry Bridgewater maybe, kind of maybe either go the bridge route, but they do have good talent. So that's where I'm like, if I am Deshaun Watson and I'm looking around, it's like, out of all the teams out there, maybe the Bucs, and then it would probably be the Colts is how I look at it. I have to look at the Colts cap situation, but I think that they're probably better than the Buccaneers. So so I think the Colts can definitely use some sort of a veteran quarterback, such as Deshaun Watson, if that were to be the case. Who knows where Jameis Winston maybe. But yeah, I think they would be more suited to bring in more of a veteran quarterback in there to take them over the hump more so. The Steelers, they are definitely going. It seems like they're kind of, they were very close to making the playoffs last year, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think that it was that final game was really, really weird and exciting and all that, right? Oh yeah, they did make the playoffs, I remember, but then I think they just got knocked out of the first round and all. That was Big Ben's last game. If I were them, I would consider. It's definitely not Mason Rudolph. I think that's the thing. I think there was a lot of talk, or there's been a lot of talk of like, what's his name? Malik Willis maybe, going over there. I think there's, probably just a good fit overall. Who knows exactly, but, I would see them, maybe going the younger route. I think the big thing is that Tomlin is such a staple over there. I think that, when you have a good head coach, bringing in a young quarterback is not as fearful, and you have a lot more opportunity to there again with the whole cap situation. So, maybe they bring in a Malik Willis, draft him, and then load up on some free agents, and then and then continue their winning ways. He's had winning season like every single year or something like that. So yeah, I would take that gamble if I were the GM over there. I think they just have a new GM, right? I think he's retiring. I think this might be his last draft or something like that. But yeah, if I have a player or a coach like Tomlin, I would probably take the gamble. Bring in a rookie quarterback. Tomlin's still relatively young too, so he's gonna feel like he's gonna be a lifer there. If I were them, get a young quarterback, and then build around that young quarterback. And if they feel like a young quarterback in this draft can succeed. So yeah, that's probably what I would do if I were the Steelers.
Yeah. Now, to touch on the Colts, the only thing I would consider is with Watson, I would just find it hard for the Texans to want to look at the Colts, within the same division in the eyes and say, hey, make our franchise quarterback. I'm sure they'll get the haul of a lifetime. But I'm almost thinking the Colts are in a little bit different of a situation even than the Steelers, even though they have, at this point, pretty comparable teams, just for the fact that you just dished off Carson Wentz, and that was supposed to be your savior, going into last year. I would think they're in the ballpark of a Jimmy Garoppolo type of trade, or Winston. I've seen rumors on him too, which I think might be a good fit. I think that Winston, can keep an offense going, whether or not he can ever reach his true potential of what they thought he'd be out of a draft, is yet to be seen. But, I think a guy like that, even a Kirk Cousins, if there is some movement from Minnesota, I've heard he might be a good fit. Now, Steelers side of things, I've actually heard that the franchise is pretty cheap when it comes to, spending on quarterback or other players for that matter. I love what they have on the defensive side of the ball, and they've got some serious playmakers on offense too. But like you're saying with Malik Willis, I think that'd be the right move if he's available in the draft, just from, a future looking perspective. I mean, I think they could get into the playoffs next year too, but, to kind of put a guy like Malik Willis behind center, and you got a bunch of young talent with Najee and, just looking at the receiving core and TJ Watt on the defensive side. I mean, that's the team that could be, pushing, the Bengals and Ravens around for the next 5 years or so. And they've been doing that ever since we've been watching them. So, it's kind of a good points that you've made on those. But I guess outside of that, if we want to wrap it up with the Bears, how you feeling about this offseason so far? And, we've got a quarterback, not the QB1, but the new QB1 in place for next year, Justin Fields. But how do you feel about everything they've done up to this point? What do you think they'll do, before kickoff of next year?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what I think that they would do is, it seems like they are just going full force on rebuilding the offense. So, they got rid of Mac's contract. I think they feel good that Eberflus, I think people forget that when he was coaching the Colts, that I think he had like the 30th ranked salary cap for the defensive side. So I'm wondering if Poles is like, oh, you don't need too much money or whatever. We can live off of peanuts for you, and then you would still perform. So I'm thinking Poles is like, okay, there's enough talent over there, enough young talent with Roquan, Jalen. Maybe they do keep a few of the other. I mean, Quinn for sure too. I'm thinking that maybe they do keep some of those pieces there, and then draft and fill in the needs there, and feel like, yeah, we can have a top 15 type of defense over there this coming year. So that's what I'm thinking, and I think with Goldman, I think that was just predicted, and Keemix is probably out the door too. I think they're just going to rebuild the entire defense to just fit that 4-3 model, right? So I think they're going to go a little bit cheaper on the defensive side, and then sign some offensive linemen. I think they could definitely sign a center or draft. I would definitely be leaning more to signing offensive linemen more so. Especially, it's like, okay, Justin Fields is on his rookie deal, right? Yeah. Pony up for the left tackle or whatever. Whoever it is, honestly, whether it's Tariq Armstead or Cam Robinson and all, like I think I'm maybe might be more in favor of Cam Robinson. I think he has a better foot bill for health. I think Tariq's been injured most of the time, but load up on offensive line via free agency. Because they need more so help now, I think. I don't think they have the patience, and they already have a lot of young assets already with Tevin Jenkins, Borum. I think Borum they can move into guard, so I think that they'll sign a left tackle, move Borum inside to guard, possibly sign James Daniels and move him to center. That's where he was drafted for. Seems like a better fit there. And then right tackle, move Jenkins to right tackle. So and then Cody Whitehair at left guard. I think I've heard maybe they do move on from Cody Whitehair. I think he's going to be $8 million, and I think if they cut him, forget the whole deadline thing, but they would be saving about $4 million or something like that for this coming year. So maybe that is something, but I'm like, yeah, Cody Whitehair, he had a down year last year, but I think he's solid overall. I think he went to the Pro Bowl like a year or two ago or something like that. So, I wouldn't mind keeping Cody Whitehair for sure. Kind of keep some of that more continuity, veteran presence, a little bit more on the offensive line there. And he's a solid top 15, probably guard left guard in the league, I would say. So yeah, keep him there, and then sign a wide receiver, draft a wide receiver. I think they're going to do both, because they only have two wide receivers for this coming year. And with that trade for Mac, they set themselves up really well from the salary cap perspective. And they're also getting more draft capital too. I think I read somewhere that next year, not this offseason, but next offseason, they're going to get like $123 million or something like that for salary cap room. So it's like, oh, they can sign a bunch of people then. And then, maybe re-sign some of their younger assets. Definitely want to prep for Justin Fields, but then, re-sign Roquan, eventually Jalen and all that too. Keep your young core together. They can build on for the next couple of years. And then, fill in the rest of the holes there, and then keep that draft capital, coming in too at the same time. I think that was one thing that Pace did. Sure, Nagy and all that, but I think that he definitely just threw away draft capital like it was nothing. I think he felt like he had a really good contending team and all that, but it's like you want to keep those first round picks. I think when you do have that first round quarterback too, it's like, you want that talent either around him or on the other side of the ball to kind of take you to that next level on a good contract. So, so I think they're headed the right direction, but it's it's always going to be a wait and see, I think, right now. But, I love the way that the Ravens are built. It's like they draft well and they build through the draft. And like what Ryan Poles is saying with regards to all that, like he wants to build through the draft. So I'd rather go that route, get that longevity in with being a team that is known for drafting well, and then filling in the roles where need be for on the free agency side. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. But yeah, I'm very optimistic. I think Justin Fields has a lot of talent. I think he's probably he was, for me, in my opinion, I thought he was the most talented quarterback of that draft, right? I think he took down Trevor Lawrence, I think, in that bowl game, and then also outcompeted him in that is it the QB1 show or something like that too, that reality TV show. So yeah, I think he's got all the talent in the world. It's just, getting all the resources and talent around him so that, he can succeed. So I like the move so far. Did I wish that the Bears got more picks or whatever for Max? Sure. But, they relieve themselves from all that cap space, and the NFL is very much cap driven. So, what are you going to do? You got all that roster spots you got to fill. So yeah, what do you think about them?
I mean, I love where they're going. I think what you touched on with, just Pace's kind of negligent ways about, getting rid of first round picks and what have you. I mean, I think we were talking about it offline about a week ago, but, it was almost like he thought he was the LA Rams in terms of you give away that first, you get Jalen Ramsey. You give away another, set of picks, you bring over Matt Stafford. We weren't in that situation. We didn't have a quarterback. I think in a lot of ways, adding Mac that year made us an exciting team. I mean, we had a pretty sturdy defense, and we were kind of figuring things out on the offensive side. But, even taking the division and having a great record, it still didn't feel like it was our year going into that playoffs, even though I think if we were the 1 seed, get knocked off by the Eagles with the double doink. It was a hard one to swallow, but I never really took it to heart too harshly, because I also kind of knew, hey, we're not winning the Super Bowl this year regardless. But that was just, my own takeaway. But like you're saying, building from the ground up has been the recipe for a lot of great teams around the league. I mean, most teams for that matter. There aren't a lot of, teams that, come together like the Buccaneers did, where you just, pull a Hall of Fame quarterback and you've already got everything in place. You're more or less looking like, the Ravens, or you're looking like the Patriots most years, where, you got to build through the draft. You got to, get the savvy signings and keep those contracts low off the bat. And you kind of really develop a culture. You really develop, guys that can build some continuity with one another. And I think that's ultimately what the Bears have always needed. And, I'm with you with Justin Fields. I think the sky's the limit. I was actually watching that draft, and when the Bears, traded up, we kind of knew that it was going to be Fields or Mac Jones. My TV went black, and my wife's family was over, and I was looking for the remote, because the remote just, powered off the TV, and I was losing my mind. And when I clicked it back on, I saw, luckily a PA announcement for a charity that took 3 minutes. So I was still ready to see the draft pick come across the stage. But when they picked Justin Fields, I was ecstatic. I mean, that's the kind of, culture changer that we needed in Chicago. I mean, for so many years, and, every year that I've been a Bears fan, which, I'm about to be 35. I mean, the best quarterback we've ever had is Jay Cutler.
By a lot. Yeah.
Right. So it's just kind of like, they're finally looking at what's happening in the NFL, and whether or not ownership is in lockstep with what the GM and the head coach and the players kind of need over time is yet to be seen. But it, just sent a signal saying, hey, we've heard you. We'll no longer trade multiple firsts to move up one draft, pick to grab, another cliche type Bears quarterback who, can't really move or can't really throw very far. But, I think Justin Fields is the right recipe of modern NFL day, quarterback. And it's going to be a hard season next year. If I had to, put my money down on it, I think we're going to be pretty close to the Lions there at the bottom of the division. But for me, I think it's a building block year with a new core. And, maybe they find, DJ Chark, who could come over on some lower end money, or, have some guys that are, maybe overlooked a little bit on the defensive end, like you're saying, keep the balance sheet a little bit low there. And, hopefully over time, Chicago becomes a destination again, and, puts out monsters of the midway type defense and, brings a competent offense to the field. So I'm looking forward to everything, and I guess we'll just kind of see where everything goes.
Yeah. Have you been paying attention to the draft at all for the Bears, or have you been looking at anybody?
It's tough to say. I mean, I honestly don't follow the college game as closely as I do the professional game. I know the big name quarterbacks and some of the big receivers that may be on the board there, but in general, what have you been seeing in the draft that's caught your eye? I mean, I'm also considering the Bears I don't think they have a first, but
Right.
I think they have multiple seconds.
Yeah.
What would you see happening with us, and what would you like to see?
Yeah, what would I like to see? I would like to see wide receiver. I'm hoping Dotson drops. He's a wide receiver from Penn State. He's not too big, but I think the whole idea is that Poles has been very much driven about speed and all that. And he's been promoting all that. So, I think I could see have him, have Mooney, and then like a big guy, kind of like a DJ Shark, kind of the more that possession, big body type of receiver. I think that would be a good combination for Justin Fields, and then having him with Cole Kmet too. Yeah, that big body again. Hopefully, Kmet can take it to the next level a little bit more. Seems like he progressed a little bit this past season, which is great. Developed more of a chemistry, I think, with Justin Fields towards the end of the year. I think that's how I would go for it is just get the best wide receiver out there that can get a bunch of catches. Maybe something in the slot, possibly, keep Mooney out there, at the Z position, I believe. And then, have a slot receiver, then have Shark on the side. So I think that could be a good route to go. And then, I would probably use the second. This defense is this draft is pretty deep on the defensive side, from, I think, the lineman perspective, and then also has some really good in the second round, some cornerbacks or safeties possibly. So the Bears would need both. I think they're short of. I don't know if they want to bring Gibson back again for another 1-year contract on the safety side. So I'm thinking that they maybe draft a safety. There's several out there. I think I don't know. It's like Cine or Cine, CY or CINE from Georgia. A little bit more of that bruiser type of safety. I think Eddie Jackson, if they want to keep Eddie Jackson, I think that type of combination works better with Eddie Jackson. With Adrian Amos, I think he did really well with him and just has not performed the same since then. So think, you can definitely utilize someone like that. And there's several other ones. And there was one for Michigan, and can't recall the other ones, but there's a lot of good safeties in the second round. So either go that direction, or maybe they also do draft another cornerback. Again, there's a lot of good, talented quarterbacks in the second round. McCrary from Auburn, he's one that some think that he might go towards there, but a lot of like those 6 foot or 6'2" type of cornerbacks are in the second round, is what I'm seeing. But if not that, there's also the third round. I think this person might be going there. I love watching the tape of Cam Britt-Taylor from Nebraska. He is a hitter. Maybe kind of a safety. He reminds me of my favorite player, Charles Tillman, a little bit. And that he's like a hard hitting, physical cornerback. I think he might have ran a sub 4.4. I think he did run like a 4.39 or something like that. So he's got speed, very physical. Definitely like a leader from what I've seen on the Nebraska side. And good cornerback, and maybe he can develop the peanut punch a little bit more so too. So, but I think that route, and then probably also the defensive line too, and the first 3 picks. So something like secondary, wide receiver, and defensive line is what I would imagine. It's just a stack draft, I think, for those 3 lines. So
Gotcha. Well, that's a pretty good wrap, I'd say, for our first
Yeah.
rendition of the Ball and Breakfast podcast. I guess with that, do you have any other parting thoughts or one takeaway from today's show, or something you're looking forward to over the next couple of weeks here on the NFL side?
On the NFL side, I mean, I'm just gonna be looking at Ian Rappaport and at Adam Scheffler's Twitter feed. I feel like, and getting all giddy when I get a notification. So, no, I think it's an exciting time from the NFL side, and then all the other sports. There's always something happening right now. The NBA playoff race is going to be shaping up in the next couple of months, and then March Madness is and all that too, and then baseball. Oh yeah, it's actually happening. So a lot to look forward to in the next couple of months. So no, it's really exciting. And this is awesome, man. Yeah. When I got the message like, oh, this Patrick Miller kid, this guy, I was like, oh yeah, I remember him. Always love our conversations and all. So yeah.
Yeah, it seemed pretty seamless too. Once we got back into touch and started talking sports and life and stuff, it just kind of flowed. So I always felt like that was the case in general. And I think with people you just click with, it really shouldn't take a lot of effort if you've got common interests and you're good people. So, I'm glad we put this together, and we'll echo your excitement over MLB. I was dreading the fact that, we were looking at a week's worth of canceled games, and if they didn't get that right and they started canceling more games and couldn't figure out how to, kind of prorate those salaries to the players' liking, I mean, we could have been looking at a pretty miserable spring and summer, maybe into the fall. I'm not really sure, but just really glad to kind of see that popping in all sports right now. It's clicking on all cylinders for each one that we cover, but we'll continue to cover, all the major pro sports. We can touch on college too, but come back and catch us for our next episode. This was Wayne and Patrick for the Ball and Breakfast podcast, and we're signing off.
Take care. All right.